Awesome. So we have the most beautiful soul, Rayne Watkin. And while I feel like, we haven't met in person, I probably could say I barely know you. I feel like there's a part of me that's like, this chick is a soul sister. She is Canadian born and raised and moved to Australia 20 years ago to the day. And from there, Rayne studied osteopathy and has been practicing that for 15 years plus. Prior to that, she was doing massage therapy and has always been interested in, I guess, alternative ways of healing, like in like connecting to nature and animals and people. And that passion has really grown from having that personal background with one of her parents having mental illness. And I guess what we get exposed to, we naturally draw to wanting to heal the people that we love. So with that, I would love for you to come in now, Rayne, and tell your story of just where it all started, where you knew that, your osteopathy had to include a holistic approach, not just the bones and not just the body. I would love for you to speak to, yoga and your whole story in general.
Oh, it's almost 50 years of story, I suppose. I think if I was to be really honest, I've always known. I've always been kind of outside of the square, and for a long time that was maybe polarizing, a little bit isolating, feeling a little bit weird almost. But when I first went into the human body, I've always been very clear, always heart driven, always clear I was going to be working with the body. But I guess if I went a step back, there was a moment there where animals were my call. I wanted to work and heal all animals. In fact, as a child, that would be my dreams. I'd literally dream of saving animals and just like put them in my Barbie caravan and save them all. I'd be so like, I remember those dreams so vividly, but I could never put an animal down. So I knew that would have been too hard for me emotionally, but I still treat animals in a different way. But then it kind of evolved. Like I was an athlete and I did human movement first. I mean, I've done 10 years of university, human movement first. And then that wasn't quite it. I was like, that's not it. And then I started, oh, maybe I should become a physio or do maybe, I don't know, what should I be? And so I went and tried that. I'm like, nah, that's not it. That's not what I should be doing. Then I went and got massage as part of the rowing team. And I was like, what is that? Like that was amazing what just happened to me there. Like that was like I could do that. I think that's really great. So then I started to do that. And then it just snowballed. So as it does when you're on the right path, it's like then I did Reiki, and then because I've always been sensitive to energy and I was always quite empathic, and people would say I could read their mind, but I wasn't aware of it. It's not was a conscious skill. But then osteopathy came through massage. So in Canada, and I'm so grateful to Canadians in this way, because the osteopaths in Canada are very different than here in Australia. They're very visceral, meaning they treat the organs. They're much more cranial, sacral osteopaths than over here, which is more biomechanical, which is fine too, but it's just a different background. And I took the cranial sacral course, which is different than cranial osteopathy, but I took cranial sacral because anyone that was a doctor, a myotherapist, a mom with a kid with disability could take it. So that's why I loved it. So I took this course. And the moment I did it, I was like, I've done this before. This is amazing. And I said, well, where did this come from? And it came from osteopaths. And I'm like, well, I need to be an osteopath then, because this is what I came to do. And the more I learned about osteopathy, I mean, their tenet is that the body can heal itself. And that was my soul. It's like, yes, the body can heal itself. We've become so disempowered, but I know and I can feel and I can see that you can heal yourself, and it was just so empowering to find that tool. And then obviously yoga just dovetails so beautifully with that. It's so even more ancient, like a lot more ancient. And it's exactly what osteopaths are saying now is what, yogis and seers and rishis knew way back then, And so it's just like this, I'm at this merging in my life, pulling together all of this kind of knowledge and all of this ancient wisdom and finding a way of transmitting that through my hands-on through my voice, whether it's kirtan or just through teaching yoga, which I never in a million years quietly would have ever thought I would ever have been doing, because I've just done yoga for myself. And all of a sudden the universe is saying, hey, you got to teach. And I'm like, but I don't want to just teach what everyone else is teaching. I want teach people to heal. So that's kind of, in a really big nutshell, the journey towards the now, really.
You've summarized a huge story and a huge journey really elegantly and eloquently. And I guess as well, when you're teaching, that I see you as a good teacher. So that's what it comes down to, right? We condense ancient wisdom down into digestible knowledge and a way that people can actually receive it. Because if you started talking about certain bones or ligaments or movements or treatments, I guarantee you would have like 99% of people go, well, I'm not there. Like only osteopaths would know this, or only yogis would know this. And it's like, I think it's such a beautiful journey into the work that you do today, because the way that you described it was like, I know that I've always had this within me. And I personally feel like all of our lives, it's about clearing the illusion to remember who we actually are deep at the core of ourselves. So it's really cool that you have remembered so many parts of you that you can now share to your clients. And I'd love for you to speak about whether that, like in your practice, whether it shifted from very anatomical to now more holistic in the way that you share it, or whether you've stayed really consistent along the board for however many years you've been doing this.
Oh, it's such a great question for me to even reflect on. As you're saying that, my whole heart's just lighting up, because I think the beauty of it is I've been consistent. It's
cool.
for me to become an osteopath. I always remember this, whenever I had a major crisis in my life, I always went to a psychic, like just let me know I'm on the right path. So I had the psychic say to me, and I never forgot it, which means it was quite a signpost if I never forgot it, right?
Yeah.
And she said, Rayne, you don't need to do osteopathy to do what you do. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like my ego was well entrenched. I was a lot younger then. And I'm like, of course I have to finish. I'm also pitta. I need to finish everything I start. So I need another label. I need another achievement, because that's just who I am. And, it served me well, but also is exhausting to be so driven. But it was funny, because as that massage therapist that was using the osteopathic technique of cranial osteopathy, I treat exactly like her. And when I came to do osteopathy in Australia, I forgot her. So to become an osteopath, I actually had to become again, for the umpteenth time, become anatomical, beyond the physiology, get bogged down and all of that prakriti, that materialism of illusion. And I'm like, I'm not interested in that. I actually am just interested in your soul. And, it was a really telling, and be mindful, I was a lot older than the average osteopathic student. I was at least 10 years older than the average. So I'd come in with a little bit of life behind me. And I asked them, I said to my teachers, I said, but, I get you're teaching us all about this really interesting, really, I can touch it, I can feel it, I can move it, I can heal it type of stuff. And I'm like, but what if you touch someone and they have an emotional breakdown on the table because you shifted something quite deep inside of them, and they just looked at me like I was from Mars. And I literally, the whole class went silent. And I'm like, but that happens all the time. You're touching someone's temple, like, so to just think it's just a ligament and a muscle for me was a real, like, so for a little while I lost my soul. I lost my purpose. I'm like, oh, well, I'll do that because that's what I need to do to register, but that's not what I do. And I guess I've gone back. I have reverted back to that girl that knew that people are more than just muscles and bones, and they're human beings having a life experience, and a lot of it's in their tissues and it's stuck there, And I always have been really articulate with my patients about what I feel. And you know, and some it's confronting, but if 10 years later or 5 years later, they call me and say that was that treatment that changed the trajectory of my life, because I challenged them, not just physically, but emotionally and personally. And I always say, you know, I might say things that might trigger you. They might not feel like they're yours. So don't own them. I'm not trying to put my stuff on you, but if it hits your heart, then it might be part of your healing. So it's more than just your knee today, maybe, you know? And so that's how I treat. And I'm pretty proud. And that's also yoga, right?
Yeah.
It's in the moment. No two treatments with me or with most osteopaths, I would say, are the same. You know, I never come in with a recipe of how to fix someone, because that knee could be sore for a million different reasons, you know? And I'm like, who knows what's going to happen? Just like right now, it's just in the flow. And that's how I treat, and I honor people, hopefully, and help them along their way. Yeah.
I love that, girl. It's yeah, it speaks true to me as well, in terms of, I think so many people, especially when you're in an organization or you're working for somebody else, where it's you're abiding by the policy or you're abiding by the protocol, but that takes, well, it's certainly when I was working as a paramedic, going by that, I couldn't follow that anymore. And it was like, you know, there's that part of me, I'm Pitta as well, but it's just like, when I get put in a cage, I'm like, bitch, I'm breaking out. And it's like, I don't want to be put in a position to break the rules in terms of like life settings. But then there's situations where you have clients come in and what you were told at osteopath school is like very different. You could be recommending something that's life experience based or intuitively based or animal intuition based, because that was something else I really want to ask you about. My sister is animal lady. She's a dog trainer. She's amazing. But I would love just to hear how you heal yourself with animals, and like how that kind of looks for you in terms of nature and what animals you own.
I always have animals. Right now we have 2 cats and we have a little miniature dachshund, which is hysterical. So I've always classically rescued. As a matter of course, I'd always get a rescue. And a lot of those animals found me until I came to Australia. So my relationship with animals has always been quite, I actually didn't relate with people most of my life. I related to animals. I related to the natural world more. And I had a hard time finding my feet. And I'd have to say that's only happened in my 40s. You know, like I've always been that awkward one that sits in the back of the room because I'm too sensitive to people's energy and I don't do small talk. And so animals they're just with you, they're present and they're just real, and then they're moment and instinctual. And I just got that. And I'm like, yeah, I get you. And so I probably spent most of my younger years spending most of my time with my cats, because we never allowed dogs. I had many, many cats, but animals always come to me when they're lost or they're dying. And that's a hard thing. That's been kind of something that is more now, which I didn't realize was my superpower. It's kind of becoming more pronounced. I forgot about that part of myself, if I was to be honest, because I'd become so stuck in this, you know, humanness of my world. But then people said, Rayne, can you treat my dog? I'm like, sure, why not? Why not treat a dog? Of course I can do that. I forgot I could do that.
I've been doing that since I was 2.
So yeah, and they're just so responsive. Or I just forgot. So thanks for reminding me. But then people would come in and it was like, I've become this transitional advice person. So when a dog is clearly unwell, they'll come to me in a dream. Like a lot of dogs will come to me in a dream, or I'll touch them and I'll know they're sick. And I'll say it in my own way to the owners, but then, you know, it'll come to fruition 18 months later that they're really unwell, but they were starting when I touched them, type of thing. And so that's happened just recently to a handful of people, and they've come to me to help them decide that it was okay to let them cross over. Because we hold on to animals much longer than we should, because we humanize them, and that isn't loving. And so I'm like, they need to be free. And the reality of a dog or a cat or a fish or a turtle, they're going to be with you because you want them here. And we tether them into this world and we have to set them free. We are being given that right. They haven't, you know? And in a natural world, their pack would sort them out. We're their pack. You know what I mean? So the old need to transition. And so that's been really humbling to be put in that position, and something I don't take lightly. I sat with that and go, what? Are you serious? This is what I've got to do next. Okay. But it was right, and it was clear, and there was no hesitation. And I'd get an image of the animals, and literally the owners will say, that's the picture that they put on Instagram the next day that was unrelated, and I'm just like, they showed me they were free. You know, you've got to set them free. They're here for you, you know? We have a hard time transitioning our animals, and they need to move on, you know? So that's a really new one. And also when dogs are lost, I'm driving my car, a dog always will come in front of my car. Like I've had that happen more than a couple of times. Like, you know, it's just like, I'm lost. Can you sort me out? Because no one else seems to be noticing, you know? So that's really cool. Yeah. But yeah, I think in summary, animals are what I relate to the most. I relate to them way more. Like if I watch a movie, girl, it's the animal dying. It could be a million people shot dead. If that animal's down, that horse is down, I'm done. Like I'm out. Like I'm like, shut it off too much. My husband's like, what's your problem? I'm like, I can't deal.
There's a flood happening up in here and it's not coming from the sky, if you know what I'm saying. I'm the same. We decided to watch Seaspiracy the other night. I almost vomited and cried at the same time. I highly recommend not watching it if you're that sensitive. I was like, I can't figure out whether this was a good idea or bad, like just in terms of the educational side, but I was like so distraught because, you know, it literally makes you sick when you see that happen to animals or just seeing them die. And it's like I think because they're so, for me, animals teach me unconditional love, and they exhibit that. It's not that they're like, hello, Lauren, this is unconditional love. They are that. They're the essence of that. And that is what I guess yoga is. And like, we're trying to come back to the essence of ourselves. So instead of me going, I'm this and I'm that, Rayne's this and she's that, I look at you and I know that, like without talking. And I feel like that's probably a skill that you embody since having that connection from a very young age of kind of being, you know, you say I'm the awkward person who sits in the back and didn't know how to relate to people, but I guarantee you it's taught you how to be a very good people watcher and observer and a really good listener. And I think that that's something that probably isn't practiced maybe enough just in our normal day-to-day setting with our partners, our friends, but it's in your work. People aren't probably coming in for their, you know, they say it's their need, but it's a lot of it is connection, and they're needing something shifted with talking with you. And I know that you would give that in your practice. It's not just, hey, how you going? Let's fix your knee. It's like, how's your family? How's your day been? What's been going on? Tell me about X, Y, Z. And that just the actual process of kind of talking about it or thinking about it, it's like, whoa, I didn't even know I was holding on to that. So you, in a sense, shine light onto the things that they don't really even know that they're holding. And then you're actually gifted enough as well to guide them to either move it through their body and distribute it healthily, or actually kind of like get it out. And I think that's it's such a cool gift that you stuck through, because like I felt like I couldn't stay in my job and I had to shift to something else, whereas you've been able to marry the Western and the Eastern wisdoms together, because a lot of people are coming in from the Western side and sometimes the woo-woo side or the Eastern side. A lot of people, they don't resonate. But once you start working on them, I'm sure they just go like, I just feel different. I can't explain it. And yeah, that's your magic.
And that's yoga too, right? Like What
Right.
just happened? I just did a couple of sun salutes and held my breath for 2 seconds, and look at me, I'm a puddle. What just happened?
Oh God,
Yeah, yeah.
hashtag yoga training. Like, I don't know what's happening right now. Do not look at me. How did you do that?
It's the best, isn't it?
It's
Oh, I
seriously
love
the
those
best.
moments. They're such a gift to be a puddle, you know?
Oh,
Such a gift.
and
Yeah.
music
I
gets
think,
me.
yeah, and I think sorry, I missed that. We're breaking up a little bit.
And music gets me as well. I know that a lot of Rod's stuff is silent, but I feel like a lot of practices that I do for myself or teach, I love how music can move through my body or how I can actually create music. And I think that is another element of like, it's powerful. And probably his sense of music is mantra. And like you were saying, doing kirtan and stuff like that. I'd love to know more about where you're doing that and how that journey's progressed as well, because that's just, that lights my soul up just thinking about it.
Yeah, this is such a trip, this ride. Once you start to go down the path of just following where you're being guided versus thinking where you need to go. Like
Yeah.
I would never, you never would be thinking I'd be speaking to you on such a really quite an intimate platform for me, which I don't share with a lot of people, So it's a big deal to put yourself out there. But
Yes.
when I started training with Yoga Rupa, which was just fairly recently in the grand scheme of the tradition, like it's 5 years maybe now, max. It's not a lot really for most of the yogis that train with them. They've been with them for a long, long time. I'm about to do Guru and Paraparam with them starting tonight. So, it's a big
Wow.
deal, right? But until I did my first training of Tantra with him in Bali, I never ever shared my voice. And something happened in that particular training for me that opened up my throat. And then all of a sudden I was singing. Like I'd been exposed to mantra through a really great friend, Heidi. And I was like, I looked at a harmonium. I'm like, I'm supposed to be buying one of those and I've got no idea why. Okay, I'm going to go get it. Because see, I used to be, I'm very musical. And I, again, forgot. I forgot about that part of myself. And I saw this harmonium and I'm like, I've done that before. I think I got to buy one of those things. I've got no idea why. But then as I started to teach myself, I wasn't taught by anyone how to play it. I started to understand why. Like I kind of alluded to, it's the reason I sing is for my family's karma. I'm healing karma. And that was a massive epiphany for me. And it's not something that most people would even understand, but I know you do. It's just both my parents were very gifted and both of them regret not following their heart, right? And the irony of that, simultaneously, unbeknownst to me, my brother, who's in Canada, started to play his drum set again, right when we both parallel. So that was another sign. It's like, yeah, exactly. So I started to sing, and I wasn't planning on singing to anyone but myself and just doing it for me. My kids were enjoying it. We went to a couple kirtans together with my friend was running. And then I started to sing over my patients' bodies. I'm like, I have to sing this mantra. I have to do Mrityunjaya onto this patient. And whoosh, it moved. And everyone's just like, whoa, what just happened? I'm like, that was just really important that happened in that moment, and it deepened my understanding of mantra, because I think I was still intellectualizing it, to be honest. And then it just was evolving. So then someone's like, at one of my teacher trainings, I sang Om Namah Shivaya, because we sang it as a group. So I
Frozen here. Hopefully it'll kick back in pretty soon. Come on. Our energy's too intense for Zoom, obviously. Just why there's this little pause, I'm going to wait until Rayne comes back in. I don't know if Rayne, you can hear me, whether your screen's side or whether it was me. Who knows? It looks like
We got frozen.
we got frozen. Our energy was too intense. That's what I was saying. I was like, they can't even handle us right now. And then it's like this, it all goes dark, and then we come back with like our harmonium.
So funny. I don't even know what I was saying when it cut out, but yeah, it's amazing. And I'm just, it's every time I sing, I think my voice has changed as part of singing as well, you know, like the quality of your voice as you do start to let yourself go. And it's like, again, when I sing, like when you probably sing, it's just like there's so much joy, you know, it's just joy, and people smile, and people that are skeptics will sit there and they'll be like, oh, I can't sing, what's this about? Like, your voice is beautiful, it's unique, it's God-given. This isn't about the quality of what you think singing is. This is about your soul. And by the end, everyone's just like, I feel amazing, that was insane, or whatever it was. And it's not me, it's just the practice of devotion is so beautiful. So yeah, I'm very new at it, but it's being asked of me more and more, and it's an exciting journey for sure.
I totally just want to spring this on you to go and grab your harmonium and play us something, because
Yeah,
I am so
sure.
down.
I don't know if will it sound though. I always
I
wonder
don't
if
care.
it
I just want to
translates.
hear it. It'll translate how it needs to, and I can stare at your pretty face while you're off. So excited.
Get it. Yeah. Pull it all out. I'll have to move this all back. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'm on my big bean bag. You can see my booty.
Yeah, I love the beanbag
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, it's a bit too big for the harmonium though, so I might just move her out of the way.
Sounds good.
Do, do, do.
Oh, I love all your Sri chakras there. There's such like I want to move that into my space here and create something like that.
Yeah, it's Sarah Yantra. She's amazing. I highly recommend her. She did my Ganesha there. She's incredible.
Amazing.
For yantras, I can't go. She hand does them, like she's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yogi.
Infuse us. Or just me.
Infuse us. What am I going to infuse us with? I don't know. Think about this for a second.
All right. I've been getting goosies the whole time you've been talking. With just your journey, like it goes through my whole body every time you say something, and I'm like, oh, I want to ask her about past lives, and I want to get on this, and I'm like, calm down, Lauren, just settle one thing at a time.
All right. We'll do Om Namah Shivaya since we were just talking about it.
Cool.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
I just want you to keep singing.
There you go.
You're a beauty. And thank you.
Oh, I wish you could see the freeze. The freeze of you right now is hysterical.
Is it like
Your face is like, ah!
I gave you a full
there you go.
mouthful of my mouthful. Do you know, that just brought me back to my first yoga training, which wasn't with Rod. And I feel like you're going to know this guy, but Andrew Mornahay sung it like that.
That's exactly why I brought it up. He did it in our training, and I was like, "That's from Wa." They did
Yeah.
it. It's their version, and I went home because it was just everyone. I could feel everyone's heart for the first time in the practice. That's the reason I made them all feel their heart back at the end of the training, because it was the time that everyone was just open, as a collective. So that's why. Yeah, how funny. Yeah,
But
Andrew's the best.
it's yeah, and like his dancing, it's that thing of like, again, we hide ourselves in these thing of like, oh, I can't dance or I can't sing, but it's like, what is dancing? What is singing anyway? Like I could move like this and call it dancing, or like it's just the way that we express in our words or our movement. Whereas I think we've gotten so used to labeling things, like even like osteopathy or yoga, it's a label for something that you deliver. And I know that we need language to communicate with other human beings to an extent, but I also just feel like, man, we really limit ourselves with language sometimes. Like, even saying things like, I've always been someone who thought outside the box. And recently I've heard this thing of, why is there a box? Why do we think that there's a box? It's like there isn't one, like it's limitless. Whereas we get taught all of these like analogies and words, and that our body is contained here and that's all we're able to achieve. It's like there's more than our body. Our mind is like a whole little universe crammed in a skull, and it's like if we choose to like put that out there to the world, it like we are really limitless. And like you said, we can remember anything that we want. And you are just so beautiful with your harmonium. I have wanted to get one for a while, and I'm just like, settle, I need to get a few other things sorted, but I know it will be on the list. It's on the list. It'll be at some point that it comes in, and I know who I'll be hitting up to get lessons with. You're amazing.
Oh, thanks, babe. It's fun. It's fun actually just to explore it yourself. It teaches you. The instrument teaches you, if you just spend time with it quietly, it's just like, oh my gosh, I really like that chord with my voice, and my chord and your chord will be different chords. It's such I love that about music. It's so like, and like I taught myself how to play the guitar again, and I'm not amazing, but at least I could just pick it up and I'm like, oh my God, like I can play that. How can I do that? It's just this unlocking of things that are just dormant in me. And if you just give yourself permission, you can flourish in anything. I just, I guess the one thing, if I was to get one thing across in our conversation together today, my biggest passion is people following their passion. That's why I said yes to you. This is part of your dharma, and I think that that's incredibly important. And it lights me up to see people stepping up and stepping into why you're here, because we're all here for a purpose. And as a teacher sitting in that domain, that is pretty much what I keep saying. It's just like, you are unique. Stop trying to be the person next to you. Don't look around in a room and think that you are less than the person because they can do the splits. If they're not breathing, they're not doing yoga. So don't think that that's what this is about. This is about you being you and just remembering why you're here, and I think that really still confronts people, and they don't really get it. And I think if I can leave this earth helping that message get through, then we can all just be happy. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I just want people just to know why they're here, because they're all so important. Everyone is so important. Every drop of that ocean is important.
It really is. And we're so conditioned, like particularly the older generations. I don't really know what's being taught at school these days, but I'm not a huge advocate for it anyway. And I'm not saying that it doesn't provide a lot of great things. I just don't know if it's the best way of educating like mindset and health and holistic approach to living. But yeah, it's like, what were we just talking about in terms of, I was on a train of thought there with what you were saying.
With Andrew.
No, just then, like you said something and I had a point to it. I wasn't just talking over you because I love chatting.
Just that we're all a drop. Yeah, that everyone's unique in stepping into
Oh,
their dharma.
yes. So we're taught that, well, I even heard it growing up, and it's like, you have to work hard, and you're not always going to be doing the thing that you love. And it's like, actually, I'm the best when I'm doing the things that I love. And being passionate about something incorporates both the things that you love and the things that drive you crazy. And it probably goes for things in like a relationship as well as like career. And it's, you don't enjoy every aspect. Like, I don't always enjoy like marketing or that side, but I'm so damn passionate about sharing that it's like a non-negotiable, that this is the way that it needs to get out, and how much you can reach people via technology. Like, if someone said you can give up technology right now, I would, if that could still serve in the way that it was serving. But yeah, it's like getting over that belief that we have to stick at a job and hate it. It's like, actually, your limitations or whatever is someone else's greatest gift. So you can really like allow somebody else to step in that position. You're creating a job for them if you leave, or you're creating a job for them if you don't like a part of the work that you do, that you can assign them to. And so not feeling like you have to live in this state of suffering just to wait for retirement or wait to be happy when you get your superannuation. It's like, start now with being passionate. And
Yeah.
if you don't know what you're
Just be
passionate
happy
about,
now.
be happy now. Be that person. And if you're not and you're confused, like, get in contact with people like Rayne. Like, if her story resonates with you, she is an osteopath and has all of this background, but you might just want to chat with her, and that will unlock some
Breaking up.
inspiration in yourself. Sorry about the dodgy connection. I think it's just our energy's too epic. No, bingo. You're frozen on my screen, but I can hear you. Alrighty, well, this is super.
Yeah, we broke up a little.
Hey, we broke up and we weren't even together. How cool is that?